I remember a time when every object in my home carried a story, a memory that connected me to my past. But as the years went by and the weight of decades of belongings began to press down on me, I discovered that holding on to everything wasn't always a blessing. In the quiet afternoons when the house felt too full and my heart too heavy, I realized that sometimes letting go was as important as cherishing the past. I started noticing that the clutter around me wasn't just a physical barrier. It became a symbol of a burden that made room for nothing new. And it wasn't about discarding memories but about learning to live freely with only the most meaningful remnants of a life well lived. In these moments of solitude, I learned that simplicity can be a doorway to clarity, and that there is a quiet strength in releasing the unnecessary. Now, sitting by the window on a gentle day, I find myself reflecting on how our possessions can weigh on our mind. There's a certain wisdom that comes with age, a realization that not every cherished trinket deserves space in the present. I want to share with you, not from a place of criticism but of heartfelt understanding, the truth that comes with years of trial and error. In the following words, I'll reveal some hard truths about decluttering that many shy away from discussing, yet they are essential for those of us who are learning to embrace our golden years with grace and clarity. Before we get further into today's discussion, I'd like to know where you're joining us from. It means the world to me to connect with fellow travelers on this journey of aging gracefully. If you find value in these reflections and the honest advice I share, a like and subscribe would mean a lot. Your support not only warms my old heart but helps me reach others who may be struggling with the clutter of their lives, both physical and emotional, as we learn to live lighter in our later years. One of the first harsh truths I learned is that sentimentality can be both a blessing and a burden. When you've lived as long as I have, every little trinket seems to whisper stories of love, loss, and life. For many seniors, every faded photograph, handwritten note, or antique piece represents a chapter of a life filled with memories. Yet, the sheer volume of these treasures can overwhelm even the strongest heart. There comes a time when you must confront the reality that while memories are priceless, holding on to every physical reminder can weigh you down. It's not that you love these items any less. It's that your living space and your mind deserve room for the present and future. I recall many afternoons spent gazing at boxes filled with old letters and photographs. At that time, I believed that discarding even one piece of memorabilia was akin to erasing a part of my soul. However, over the years, I learned that the essence of those memories lived within me, not in the objects themselves. The harsh truth is that you have to decide which items genuinely honor your past, and which ones have simply become clutter. It wasn't an easy decision by any stretch of the imagination. I spent long nights in quiet contemplation, sorting through years of possessions and battling an inner resistance to letting go. I realized that many items I once considered irreplaceable had long outlived their purpose in my daily life. This process is deeply personal and painful at times. It involves acknowledging that the sentimental value you attribute to an object can sometimes cloud your judgment. Instead of preserving every relic, you might choose to keep a single photo album or a digital archive of cherished memories. It's a practical way to honor your past while embracing the present. The truth here is not to abandon your history but to liberate yourself from it so you can live more fully in the moment. Accept that part of growing older is understanding that not every memory needs a physical form to be remembered. The lesson I share with you today is that, as harsh as it may sound, letting go of the excess sentimental clutter is an act of self-kindness. It's a way to ensure that your living space remains a sanctuary for your well-being rather than a mausoleum of bygone eras. Embrace the idea that you are more than the sum of your possessions, and that your heart is big enough to hold countless memories, even if they aren't physically present. Another bitter pill I had to swallow is the overwhelming habit of holding on to just-in-case items. For many seniors, the fear of future need keeps us tied to objects that have little to no practical use anymore. We accumulate things with the hope that someday they might serve a purpose, but more often than not, that day never comes. I used to be the kind of person who kept every tool, every broken piece of furniture, every old appliance because I thought, maybe I'll need this someday. Over time, however, I realized that these items weren't safeguarding my future, they were suffocating my present. At first, it feels like a betrayal to the self to let go of these potential lifesavers. I vividly remember the day I took a deep breath and began discarding boxes of just-in-case tools. I felt as if I was throwing away a part of my preparedness, my wisdom accumulated over the years. Yet, I soon discovered that this habit of hoarding was less about being prepared and more about an underlying anxiety of uncertainty. The truth is, holding on to these items creates a false sense of security that ultimately locks you into the past. One of the hardest parts was coming to terms with the idea that many of these items would likely never be needed again. I started questioning every object. When was the last time I used this? Is this truly essential? And if the answer was no, then it was time to bid farewell. This decision wasn't easy. It involved confronting your deepest fears of regret and inadequacy. It took courage to believe that you are capable of handling unexpected challenges without relying on every spare thing that once made you feel secure. Over the years, I learned that a leaner, more streamlined environment actually brought me more peace. Removing the constant reminder of what if allowed me to focus on the tangible present. I found that by clearing out these unnecessary items, I made room not only in my home but also in my mind, allowing space for real preparedness, flexibility, and genuine living. The harsh truth is that the safety net you imagine in your clutter is often an illusion. Embracing the idea that you can face life's uncertainties with a simpler, more focused approach is one of the most liberating lessons I've ever learned. So, to anyone clinging to a pile of just-in-case items, know that you are not alone in this struggle. Recognize that the future isn't built on a collection of unlikely emergencies, but on the strength and resilience you cultivate every day. Trust yourself enough to let go and create space for what truly matters. One harsh truth I have come to accept over the years is that clutter isn't merely about physical space, it's also about the toll it takes on your mental well-being. Living amidst an excess of possessions can create an environment that feeds anxiety and stress. I recall times when simply walking from one room to the next felt like navigating through a maze of memories and regret. The accumulation of things was not just a storage problem. It was a persistent reminder of times gone by and opportunities missed. This clutter, both physical and mental, can have an insidious way of sapping your energy and dulling the joy in everyday moments. The irony is that the very items we keep as a tribute to our past can sometimes serve as anchors that prevent us from moving forward. I've spent hours wondering if the boxes filled with old newspapers, letters, and relics were holding on to the essence of who I was. But more often than not, they ended up weighing me down in the present. I began to understand that clutter can cloud your judgment, making it harder to focus on what truly matters: your relationships, your health, and your personal growth. The realization struck me hard. The cost of keeping everything was measured not in dollars, but in the quality of life you lose each day. It wasn't until I took deliberate steps to simplify my surroundings that I noticed a marked improvement in my mood and mental clarity. Decluttering became a therapeutic journey, one that was as much about self-care as it was about organizing physical items. I discovered that by shedding the excess, I was making space for new experiences and more meaningful interactions with those I love. The clutter that once dominated my life had quietly eroded the time and energy I needed to nurture my passions and relationship. The truth I share with you today is not wrapped in sugarcoating. A cluttered space can lead to a cluttered mind. The more you let physical items accumulate, the harder it becomes to see the beauty in everyday moments. You may find yourself trapped in a cycle of regret, where each item serves as a reminder of what once was rather than what could be. By confronting this harsh truth, I learned that a clear space often paves the way for a clear mind, a mind that is open to new possibilities, free from the constant burden of unnecessary possessions. Embracing a simpler life isn't about losing parts of your past. It's about making room for a better present and a more hopeful future. It's about recognizing that your mental health is as important as any tangible object in your home. Letting go of the excess is a powerful step toward reclaiming your inner peace and rediscovering the joy of being truly present. One of the more challenging lessons I've learned in my later years is the subtle, yet constant, social pressure to keep up. For many seniors, the act of decluttering is not just a personal battle, it's a reflection of how society measures success, memory, and self-worth. Over decades, we've been told that every memento, every piece of furniture passed down from a loved one, is a badge of honor. And while that sentiment is beautiful in theory, in practice, it can lead to an overwhelming accumulation of things simply to meet an unspoken standard. I remember attending family gatherings where relatives would admire my home and its history, praising me for preserving every little detail. While the compliments felt good at first, they also reinforced the notion that I had to keep every item in perfect condition, even those that no longer served a purpose in my day-to-day life. The harsh truth is that the pressure to hold onto the past can become a burden. It can drive you to accumulate more than you need, simply because letting go might be seen as disrespectful or as a sign that you have somehow abandoned your heritage. In my experience, I eventually had to confront this external pressure head-on. I began to ask myself, am I keeping these items for my own peace or to meet someone else's expectations? It was a difficult reckoning, one that forced me to redefine what truly mattered in my life. I realized that my worth was not measured by the volume of possessions in my home, but by the quality of the memories and relationships that I nurtured. By succumbing to societal pressure, I was inadvertently sacrificing my own comfort and happiness for a superficial display of nostalgia. Letting go of the need to impress or conform to external expectations was one of the hardest yet most liberating lessons I've learned. I had to understand that the act of decluttering was not a rejection of my past, but a step toward reclaiming control over my own life. In a world where the measure of success is often tangled with material accumulation, embracing minimalism can feel like a quiet act of rebellion. It's saying, I choose my own path. If you find yourself caught in the whirlwind of social expectations, remember that it's okay to choose what brings you peace. The items you hold on to should serve you, not enslave you. True contentment comes not from the accumulation of things but from the freedom to live authentically, without the burden of trying to satisfy everyone else's idea of what your life should be. Perhaps the most profound and hardest truth I've faced in my journey of decluttering is the acceptance of change. As a senior, you come to understand that life is in a constant state of flux. Our homes, like our hearts, evolve with the passing years. Clutter, then, becomes a physical manifestation of a life that has seen many seasons, each with its own joys and sorrows. Accepting that change is inevitable means acknowledging that not all parts of your past need to be preserved in their original form. I have often found myself holding on to items simply because they remind me of who I once was, even if that version of myself no longer exists. The harsh truth is that trying to freeze time through material possessions is an exercise in futility. The memories, the experiences, and the people we love evolve, and so must the way we live. In my own process of decluttering, I came to see that every object I released was a small act of acceptance, a gentle nod to the fact that change is not something to be feared, but embraced. This realization did not come overnight. It was a gradual process of confronting the discomfort of letting go and learning that true acceptance meant trusting that the essence of my experiences was not tied to physical things. Each time I parted with a beloved item, I was reminded that I was still whole, still capable of carrying the love and wisdom of those memories within me. It wasn't about erasing the past. It was about making space for a future that is unburdened by the weight of what once was. The journey toward acceptance is not linear, and there are days when the loss feels particularly sharp. But I have learned that by accepting change, you allow new opportunities to enter your life. A simpler space can lead to a clearer mind, and that clarity, in turn, can illuminate new paths for growth, creativity, and connection. The reality is that nothing remains the same forever, and that is perfectly alright. If you struggle with letting go because you fear losing a part of yourself, remember that acceptance is a gift you give to your future self. By releasing the old, you create room for what is yet to come, a future that is lighter, freer, and more attuned to the person you are today. As we come to the end of today's conversation, I hope you feel a sense of connection and understanding. Decluttering is not merely a physical task, it's a journey through your memories, your fears, and ultimately, your liberation. We've touched on the hard truths of sentimentality, the trap of just-in-case items, the hidden cost of clutter on our mental well-being, the pressure to conform to societal expectations, and the painful yet beautiful necessity of embracing change. Each of these truths is not meant to wound, but to guide you toward a life that is more peaceful and intentional. In my many years, I have learned that letting go is an art, a gentle practice of choosing what serves you and what no longer does. I encourage you to take your time, to be kind to yourself, and to remember that every step toward decluttering is a step toward reclaiming your space and your peace of mind. The process may be challenging, but with each item you release, you open up more room for the beauty and simplicity that life in our later years can offer. Thank you for spending this time with me, sharing in the honest truths that come from decades of living, loving, and learning. I hope these insights help you see that decluttering is not about loss, it's about making space for new beginnings. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself and remember that a lighter home often leads to a lighter heart.